Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Some SDAs are concerned about the persecution of Adventists in Kyrgyzstan. In fact, this persecution I'm talking about started last year, but there is something about the story that all SDAs need to know. Alright, so before I get into the story, I get you the details, please let's watch this video. Let's first watch the video, and after that, I'll share some important detail with you.
Persecution against Christians rising in Kyrgyzstan, now with a ban imposed on the true and free Adventist church. For those who may have difficulties finding the country on a map, Kyrgyzstan is in Central Asia, located between Kazakhstan and China. It's a former Soviet republic. Joining us to share some insights on this development is Felix Corley of the Oslo-based Forum 18 news service. Felix, why did the Kyrgyz government ban the True Free Adventist Church and label them extremists?
Well, this is what we don't really know. This is a very small religious community. It's one that meets for worship without registration, without state permission. But it's not dangerous. It does not violate the rights of other people, or call for the rights of other people to be violated. But it seems that the National Security Committee, the secret police, decided to go after it. And they've previously gone after other communities, the Ahmadi Muslims, Falun Gong, the Chinese spiritual movement, and it tried to have Jehovah's Witnesses banned in Kyrgyzstan several years ago. Well, last November, they moved against the True and Free Adventist Church. It broke away from the mainline Seventh-day Adventist Church in the Soviet period. Many of its people there went to labor camps. One of its leaders, Vladimir Shelkov, died in a Soviet labor camp back in 1980. But they've just thrown the book at them, basically. They raided the leaders' homes last November, arrested two of the people, tortured them in detention. One of them was sort of jabbed on the leg with looks like a cattle prod. We've seen the photos that he took straight after his release. But the leader, Pavel Schreider, he's been in prison, pre-trial detention, since last November. And in March, the court issued the ban, and the church members knew nothing about this because they said they notified the pastor, but he was already in jail. So at a hearing with only 4 people present, the judge, the judge's secretary, an official of the secret police, and the prosecutor who brought the case to declare the church extremists. These are the only people present as far as we can tell. And the trial has already begun of the pastor, Pastor Schreider, who is 65 years old, and he's facing incitement charges, which could put him in prison for up to 7 years.
Well, I understand from your report that 2 justice ministry experts evaluated the church teachings and arrived at the determination. Now, were these evaluators religious experts, Christians? Do they have theology degrees? How did they determine and assess extremism? What were they looking for specifically? Incitement to violence against other faiths? What was it?
They confiscated about 2,000 religious books from community members, many of them by Ellen White and other Adventist writers. This Vladimir Shelkov, the one who died in the Soviet labor camp, book about his thoughts and the preaching. And they sent them off to these 2 so-called experts nominated by the Justice Ministry. And they just went through the book looking for any comments, particularly about other faiths, and they alighted on points that various authors have made about Islam. But we can't see that these comments on Islam, one of the comments was that Islam distorts the teachings of Christianity by saying, that Jesus is not God and he's only a prophet. Well, these are theological debates that various Christians have among themselves, various Christians have with non-Christians and with other members of other faiths or with atheists. Is Jesus the Son of God? Is he not? Whatever. But these are theological points. They're not, in no way were these writers calling for anyone to take any actions against Muslims, to attack them, to harm them, anything like that.
And Felix, you cite a Russian religious studies expert who contends the analyses presented in court were unscientific and crudely written. Another expert described the charge of extremism as absurd. So why did the court not hear from these experts during the trial?
Well, the hearing was, they say the hearing was open, but there were only these 4 people. One of them was the prosecutor bringing the case. Another was from the secret police who was supporting the case. And my colleague spoke to the judge, spoke to one of the 2 experts, spoke to some of the people in the secret police. And they were really struggling to justify how it could be construed that any of the literature was calling for harming other people's human rights.
Tell us more. Why are they targeting people of other faiths and Christians? Why are they targeting them?
Well, they have banned many of those communities. They've tried to ban Jehovah's Witnesses, but that didn't get anywhere. I don't know, they backed away from that one. You can't tell, is it because they're going after Muslims and they want to show that there are some non-Muslims who are also being targeted? Do they really believe that these communities are somehow dangerous? I doubt that. I mean, the secret police have quite a tight control over society. So, why this small group of Christians, the True and Free Adventists, would represent any threat to the government. They represent no political threat. They don't stir up problems within society. They're not a unpopular group because most of the population never heard of them. So we're really left guessing. Is it just that the secret police want to prove to the regime that they're worth the pay that they're getting?
Well, it sounds like the old Soviet mindset, the communist mindset, is still in place there in Kyrgyzstan. So Felix Corley, Forum 18 News Service, thank you for sharing your time and insights. We appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me on.
So the video I just showed you was when the persecution started last year. Yes, when it started last year. But there is a recent report, a report that was published, I think last week, 1 week ago, that this same persecution continues. And there are some SDAs that have been arrested and being prosecuted. All right. But what I just want to show you is that these Adventists are not part of us. They are not part of the mainstream SDA church. They call themselves the True and Free Reform Seventh-day Adventist Church. That sounds like an offshoot organization, right? Here is the report by forum18.org, the report about how they were arrested and, So the report reads, I just want to share that with you. It reads, late on 17 June, Bishkek Court ordered 5 members of the now banned True and Free Reform Seventh-day Adventist Church held in pre-trial detention for 2 months. The 3 men and 2 women face criminal charges of production and distribution of extremist materials. If convicted as a group, each faces 5 to 7 years imprisonment. A Bishkek-based commentator warns that the case could establish a concerning precedent. Police investigator Edilet Asenbeyev says more church members will be investigated. This is a real threat to at least 20 others, says one church member. So somebody watching me right now may want to find out more about this church, which is not part of the SDA church, but they bear the name of Seventh-day Adventists, And as I said, it sounds like an offshoot organization, but here is some more reports about this particular organization I'm talking about. The True and Free Reform Seventh-day Adventist Church in Kyrgyzstan is part of a reform movement within Adventism that emerged during the Soviet period. It is separate from the Seventh-day Adventist Church, with its headquarters in the United States. So this church is a separate church from the Seventh-day Adventist main church, and they are operating its headquarters in the United States. This is the first time I am hearing this particular organization. Yes, I've been making videos, SDA videos, for long, I think 4 or 5 years now, but this is the first time I'm hearing the name Free, True and Free Reformed SDA Church. So friends, do not panic, and do not let this shock you that the persecution is against the mainstream SDA church. No, it is not against the mainstream SDA church, but against a group of Adventists that have separated themselves from the main SDA church called Free and True SDA. But we can still pray for them. Even though they are not part of us, we can still pray for them. All right. So friends, this is what is trending online concerning persecution of Christians, especially SDAs that have separated themselves from the church in Kyrgyzstan. You can share your thoughts in the comments. Happy Sabbath. May God bless you for watching.